What's up, folks? It is Dr. Rami LeBeau, and I'm coming at you once again from the X Lair to provide you my reaction thoughts on the latest episode of Twin Peaks, episode 13 of this third season of Twin Peaks. Not too weird, so for all you weirdo files that just can't handle like the abstract approach that David Lynch is taking to telling the story. This episode should have been fairly comfortable. We got a lot of sort of linear kind of information, but the way it was presented was, of course, interesting and very, very precise in its execution of like what the overall tone should have been for those somewhat pivotal moments that we saw with like Dougie and then Cooper Ganger or Doppel Cooper or whatever you want to call him, Evil Cooper or Mr. C or whatever. So a lot of that stuff was done really well and told in a very straightforward way. So that ideally should have satisfied a lot of the people that were just like, come on, get to the point, David Lynch. Like last week's episode was all about him basically kind of highlighting that sort of urge that we have as an audience to be satisfied, to get our questions answered, and him just kind of fucking with us. And then this episode was him saying, I'm just fucking with you. Like, I know what you want, and here's what you want, and I'm not crazy, and I'm not a shit filmmaker. Here you go. It's exactly the way you want it. Very well put together. Very clear, and it was. So the Dougie stuff continued being as great as it's been. I'm still perplexed by the fact that people haven't, like his wife and his boss and whomever, haven't just acknowledged like he's basically responding, behaving as though he's a child. And even worse, really, just because children are amped and they have a lot of energy and they're all over the place. He's not. He's very calm and reserved, but like the way he interacts with the world is much the way a child does. That's kind of first learning about the world. Nobody's really commented on that, which is, I think, is great that they just kind of keep continuing that gag throughout the good Cooper, the Dougie parts of the show. The more I think about it, the more I feel like this is like what David Lynch ultimately wanted to do, was to tell the two stories of like the two versions of Cooper in the most interesting ways possible. Because the stuff with the evil Cooper, Dr. C, is so good, man. Like Kyle MacLachlan's portrayal of like Mr. C is so creepy, man. It is just like, it's really eerie, and like he has like this blank stare in his eyes, and like, and it just like it reads as evil, you know, like just like the worst element of like this or other universes or whatever it is that's going on in Twin Peaks, in this show, like what actually is going on. Like, it reads very clearly like the bad guy, and it doesn't come off cheesy, you know. Anyway, so like with the Dougie stuff, like we did get that one sort of weird moment where Dougie's coworker that tried to poison him, Tom Sizemore, the actor. I don't know the character's name, so I know some of the actors' names. Tom Sizemore sees Dougie and the two like casino owner brothers and those three bunny women or whatever enter the insurance office, and it's all presented kind of strangely. But it's really the music. It's kind of like video game / manga ish, and it really highlighted kind of like the goofy, like kind of strange world that Dougie sort of represents, and also, you know, like just the joy, obviously, that these brothers felt about, and this about, you know, getting their millions of dollars and now loving Dougie and loving the insurance company and having like but also the weird way that it was presented did highlight the weirdness of like these three bunny girls or whatever. Anyway, so that was the only kind of weird thing. Everything was very straightforward. I love the way that whole thing played out with like, oh man, there's so many good parts. This wasn't like my favorite episode, but like there were a lot of great moments in it. Like I love that scene in the police station before Tom Sizemore gets there, and you have like those cops, those two cop guys, and first of all, they completely discount the fact that they figured out that Dougie's prints are connected to his prior life as an FBI agent, and the fact that there's a person with his prints out there who escaped prison or whatever. Like they completely discounted that fact. So it didn't bring everybody together as I sort of thought it would. I thought that information would lead to them calling David Lynch's character, the FBI boss or whatever, Gordon. I thought that was going to sort of start unifying the story threads, but it didn't do that. But I love the way like the camera kind of like stayed on them, and then in the background you heard there's something very dramatic going on. Somebody with a knife, probably somebody that got freed and was threatening other cops, and like we didn't see any of it, but it was very dramatic. I love that. It was such a beautiful little touch to just a very normal scene that didn't really merit anything special, but that's what a good filmmaker does. He makes like the most commonplace shit extraordinary, and always kind of again playing with the audience's expectations, playing with what we want to see versus what we're actually seeing. Anyway, that was a cool scene, and then of course the whole thing of Tom Sizemore actually getting the poison and then putting it in Dougie's drink, and then Dougie basically getting his way out of it, like without doing anything. Tom Sizemore completely. It's the way everything has gone so far, and how Dougie has managed to survive and continue his story. Like everything around him just kind of resolves itself. He just continues to be this like kind of weird fucking guy. Which is very funny and very, I don't know, it's entertaining, and I really love it, because I think what really makes me love it is like again, Kyle MacLachlan's portrayal of Dougie. He's just very consistent with it, and also David Lynch's presentation of like Dougie in this world. It's very consistent as well. Like there isn't a break from like everybody just kind of accepting that Dougie's acting like this, and things just kind of resolving themselves around Dougie, and Dougie continuing to be who he is, and really ultimately, as far as the story goes, like keep getting elevated. Like he keeps getting more wealth. He got the winnings from the casino. He got this car now, and that great jungle gym set for his son that has like LEDs. It was the coolest thing ever. There was even a spotlight around the kid. That was hilarious. It's like, where the fuck does that spotlight come from? Did it come with the set? Like, it was just funny. Anyway, like, yeah, so all that stuff, great, and like really nothing really happened there. There was a mention, well, I guess the stuff with like Tom Sizemore confessing, and then like Dougie's boss like wanting more information. I don't know, it implies that Dougie's boss knows a lot more, because it implies like Dougie's boss is somehow involved in placing good Cooper in this world, in this life that he has. Like somehow he's in on it. Anyway, then we went to the evil Cooper stuff, and the evil Cooper stuff was great, man. That whole scene in that warehouse with that like tall leader, and like if you want to win, people try to. I'm still trying to process how ridiculous the whole thing is. People arm wrestle the leader to be the leader. Nobody has, and that's sort of a thing. And so we let the whole thing play out, and like the whole time I'm just thinking, fuck, like this is not gonna end well. Like look into those blank dark eyes for Cooper. Like that is like some darkness there, and like you don't fuck with that kind of darkness. You just don't. But this guy, you know, he was Mr. Arrogant asshole, fucking I'm the shit, arm wrestler, head of a gang or whatever. So he thought he could. But the way that whole scene played out, it was really good because you had a lot of sort of, well, at least I did, anticipation of how horrible it was going to get. I thought that maybe Cooper was going to like break his hand off or something, and we were going to see bone and blood. But I love the way he just kind of like beat him, and like kept saying, basically toying with him as though like, very clearly communicating to him like how little of an obstacle he really was to like this guy who is not human. There's something more to him. Anyway, I love the way that whole scene played out. Then he caved the guy's face in. Then I guess everybody acknowledged him as the leader, and now he has a gang. And then he got some information about who hired that one dude to kill him. And all that's going to be relevant, but I don't want to deconstruct it because there were a lot of names being dropped. But that green ring played a part. That green ring that was in Fire Walk with Me. I don't remember if it was in the actual TV series, but I remember that it was in the scene with Chris Isaacs. Yes, I finally remembered it was Chris Isaac who was that other agent that disappeared at the beginning of Fire Walk with Me, and that ring had disappeared. And then the ring showed up later, I think when Laura was being killed, or maybe no, it was found at the crime scene when Laura. Anyway, it's played a big part. I don't exactly understand the part of the ring, but I think we got a little bit more information about the fact that it's connected to the Black Lodge, and if you die and the ring is put on you, then it disappears and goes back to the Black Lodge, and maybe you also go to the Black Lodge. I don't know. Obviously, it wasn't clear, but interesting nonetheless. Anyway, that whole scene was really interesting. And then, of course, we got, after that, just kind of like snippets of things throughout town. A lot of stuff with Norma and the RR Diner. We finally got to see, I think Ed is his name, who is, again, a character, Nadine's husband. I think he was. It doesn't appear that he is anymore. Nadine is the one that had the eye patch. We got a little bit of her as well. I think it was all about kind of reintroducing Ed and just kind of telling the audience, you want Ed? Here's Ed. And then in the end, when we kind of stay on him and he's just like kind of just doing nothing, it's basically like, you wanted Ed? Here's Ed. But guess what? Ed doesn't really have a role here. So we're just going to have him here because you want him. But he's not going to really do anything. So then we had that whole just kind of stationary shot of him drinking coffee and just waiting for customers at his gas station. Like, you wanted Ed? This is Ed. This is his life. He just sits around waiting for customers. And not much is going on. Not much is going on. He's not with Nadine. He's not with Norma. And that's that. It was really cool. It was really subtle and smooth. Like, his reintroduction and just kind of like his placement of his character within this current storyline that's being told. I like that stuff. The Norma stuff was interesting too, when she was talking about her franchising of her RR Diner and like the give and takes of that. It was very much like this is like it was very much a moment of like, this is normal life in Twin Peaks. And I like that, again, because you have like this big story going on at the beginning, and then the show is Twin Peaks, you know? So it's like, well, let's just go back to like the normal after that and like kind of ground the audience once again, because David Lynch is very much about like fucking with you and then kind of making you comfortable so he can fuck with you again. So that's what I think the last part of the show was. But we did get another part of, we did get another part with well, there was, first, before I go further, there was that whole stuff with Bobby and then Shelley and the daughter, and there was no mention of anything that Bobby went through. A couple episodes ago, where you had that crazy fucking sequence where the bullets came through the restaurant, and then he goes outside, and then you got the horn, and then you got that kid that was a zombie but wasn't a zombie. Like, everything that went on there, none of that is relevant. It was just like David Lynch fucking with us. David Lynch basically saying shit is weird in Twin Peaks sometimes, and here it is, fucking weird. No mention of any of that. Again, love it. Love that that wasn't mentioned and that things were just kind of going along. But yeah, then we went to Audrey Horne. Continuing from the moment that he cut from the scene last week. And again, it's the same weird fucking conversation that she's having with her fucking weird ass husband. And none of it makes sense. None of it makes sense. But it's beautiful. In its nonsensical effect, it is fucking beautiful. It's so ridiculous. Like, they're just talking about shit I have no idea about. The way that their conversation is going is absurd. Something about like another story, a second story, and then she starts talking about this second story as though it's important, and it just kind of takes her away from like where she was before. It just kind of highlighting, like, again, I think it's just David Lynch saying, like, you wanted Audrey, here's Audrey. You want story? There's a lot of story here, but it might not be the story you want. But her son, right, that real fucking terrible character kid, that fucking that ran over that other little kid, which is fucking horrible. He's and also kind of beat that one, the witness of it, that one chick that survived and we saw crawl out of the forest in the last episode. That kid, we saw that he was part of this gang that Doppelcooper now leads. And the way he was looking at Doppelcooper was like he was very intrigued by him. I mean, I'm just throwing this out there, and it's like a random thought, but maybe he's fucking Doppelcooper's kid. Maybe fucking evil Cooper, because Audrey wanted him back in the old days, right? In the first couple of seasons, she wanted Cooper. So maybe Doppelcooper like sought her out at some point, and they had sex, and he impregnated her, and maybe it happened with or without her knowledge. But maybe this kid, I mean, considering how evil he fucking is, there's maybe some darkness in him from Cooper. Maybe one of these entities is in him, maybe a derivative of Bob, or some of these other fucking weird demonic or alternate dimension dark beings that we saw in that fucking Bob the origin episode 8. Maybe that is in him too, and that explains his behavior, and maybe it'll lead to a strong connection between him and the core story, right? The Cooper story. So a lot of stuff happened, but really not. Again, like every episode, it just kind of touches upon things and then kind of gives you a little bit more of like just like that David Lynchian flair, which is what elevates the show. But we are in episode 13. We're marching towards the end. We have 5 fucking episodes left. Incredible, sad, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's like you got to move the story forward, but not too much should happen because really, it's all going to crescendo at some point. And there was that other cool scene I forgot to mention, the scene in the bar with James. James was singing. So now I realize, and it was because somebody online mentioned it, but I've been looking at the credits, that the songs are actually by, well, at least the lyrics of these songs at that bar that we see are by David Lynch. So they have a relevance to the story. And Angelo Badalamenti, the fucking awesome composer of the music, wrote some of them, maybe all of them. He wrote this one today. So James was singing one of these songs. I love how David Lynch kind of like took us there, and then, but whenever you see a familiar character, you know that it's not just going to be the end of the show, and that's sort of what I figured when I was watching it, that James singing meant that wasn't going to be the official end to the show, and then we did get that official end, which was the complete the complete opposite of what happens at those shows, which is like music and there's a lot of life to those endings, whereas here we just had that shot of Ed. Nothing was happening. One thing that may have happened though was we saw that gas station. Is that the same gas station that was in episode 8 when all the shadow men appeared? All those dirty men. When they appeared around that gas station after the explosion, implying that the town that it happened close to was in fact Twin Peaks. We have yet to get more information about that. I don't know if we ever will, but you know, it's definitely important. Anyway, it felt like maybe that was connected, but it was so subtle that you can't really tell. But maybe some of you can go back and do a comparison of the places and see if indeed that is the gas station. Maybe that has some significance, or maybe Ed will have significance. It's just, again, David Lynch kind of fucking with us. Anyway, this is going very long, so I'm going to end it here. I enjoyed it. I look forward to more. It didn't tickle my fancy due to its level of absurdity as other episodes have, but it did tickle my fantasy in terms of just like good storytelling within the Twin Peaks world, and that is always welcome. Anyway, thanks for checking out my video. Thanks for checking out my channel. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe. The button is down here. And as always, I'd like to remind you that if you haven't already, you better put an X in that box, ladies and gentlemen, because ain't nobody checking me. Take care. Bye-bye.